gentlemen, we are back.
For another fun-filled episode of the Drunken Tarrasque podcast. I'm excited. Are you excited?
Oh god, okay. Here's the thing. Everyone looks for advice columns somewhere, what some people think on game mechanics, what their thoughts are, and I
Well, I think a lot of people come on YouTube to try and find advice, on D&D stuff, like a variety of things. And I think, people will, especially the popular channels, they will make a lot of videos, and eventually they get to the point where they start to nitpick things, or they end up being a little hyperbolic. But we're going to focus on a video that we recently watched that we took a little bit of issue with. Well, we just differ. Well, more like Mike takes a little bit of an issue with it, or a lot of an issue with it, because it's just kind of absurd.
Yeah, what it is Taking 20, the guy who does it, Cody, he had made the remark of healing word, overpowering spell, wrecking D&D, ruining D&D. And yeah, it's clickbaity title and stuff like that, title card. And the whole premise of... If I'm going to boil down his whole entire argument to a very snapshot for a quick run, boils down to this really concept. Healing word messes with the lethality of Dungeons and Dragons and kind of throws things out of whack. That's the shorthand of it. Now, me personally, no, I don't believe it actually has the power play problems that he says. Now, he talked about, he sees this at conventions. Now, the first thing you gotta realize, conventions are min-maxers. Of course, they're going to follow the meta of the game. What's the essentially optimal route of building your characters? This is something that I learned from playing 40k, Warhammer, all those model stuff. There are metas that people will follow. Now, first things first, when you take that into account, a lot of the points he tries to make kind of fall apart. And the thing is, his major complaint of saying this is it doesn't harm the cleric with his economy of actions. He is only, I would argue, technically right. I'm sorry, Cody, this is not me trying to be an asshole to you. I'm humbly saying I believe you're 100% wrong on this. And it just comes down to yes, the healing word is used as a bonus action. You got 60 feet within it, and it does 1d4 restoring of health, and if the person is knocked out, they can snap right back up. Yes, those spots and actions are true about healing word. The thing is, it's still a first level spell. The simple fact of using it means you're going to burn up a spell slot that other items, other spells can be used. This is still an action, and well, here's the other thing is...
It's a big deal.
Yeah, well, it is a big deal, and if you actually crack open the player's handbook, and I'm going to do it right now, because when you start doing this, you start realizing at first level, and this is actually where healing word is so goddamn important, you start realizing for first level cleric, known cantrips, 3, how many first level spells you're getting? 2. That's very big, and if you really start looking at this is the reason why it's not broken, it's not messed up, is that the average person at that level, we're going to be on the high end. If you look at, like, say you have a barbarian, you're looking at somewhere around 12 or a little bit more hit points. Most people are not going to be having that high level of hit points. A perfect sword strike, a long sword strike with 2 hands, can do 1d10 damage. Healing word is important. It is actually to keep you from having a problem. And guess what? At such low levels, if you roll a critical, there are rules that if you do double the person's hit points and damage or whatever, or they can be instantly killed. This is why, yeah.
And that's the situation. I mean, it's not like this is a cantrip. It's not a cantrip. Like, you have to... It is a spell slot that will be used up. So you can't just constantly be casting healing word on all of this, because you'll use up all of your magic as a cleric, or you'll use up all of your magic as a bard, and there's a lot of different things that you could be doing instead with those spells, and so they have to serve a function. So it's I think the main thing I take issue with is that this only seems like a destructive thing if you're from the perspective of DMing as being that your entire job as a DM is to kill your players or to try to. But that's not your whole job as a DM. I think we come from a different school of thought that it's not like, of course you are there and you're going to try to kill them, of course, but that's not your entire job. But like you can speak more on it. It just seems like he's trying to nuke that.
Well, the thing is, D&D 5th edition, by its very nature, is not lethal. It is not lethal when you look at other editions, and people who know my background, L5R Dark Heresy is my wheelhouse, which, yeah, you can die in a single shot and a single blow. The thing, when you start tackling D&D, he gave the suggestions of essentially neutering Healing Word, making it where you have to be within 10 feet of the person to do this, or not allowing, essentially almost doing the point of neutering it. I've played the Cleric the few times I've actually got to play. There's a reason why Healing Word, I don't give a damn what you want to believe on, it's something that's going to actually make your character feel like they're doing something. Because I was that healing bot for so many people, keeping them alive because no one was being careful. There's another thing is, he's not, when you start messing with the spells, this is why I do not hold his solution, quote unquote, in any high regard, because you're no longer looking at it as a challenge. You're looking at it to stomp out your player's agency. You do not do that. You do not neuter them like that, because you will not have a good game. What you do is, and this is what I've actually had this idea.
You have the difficulty.
Well, it's
you have the difficulty.
Well, the thing is, he claims, oh, you can put a harder enemy character in there or do these things. Like, no. I'm not even thinking that. You start thinking on how your world functions. This is only a verbal spell component. There's a zone of silence. You can cast silence on someone. These are powerful spells that, guess what? The longer you play, people will start realizing he's using Healing Word. Boom. Or counter spell. You start actually building encounters and tailoring them to your players. This is what happens if you overstream and treat D&D like some manufactured thing. You do not build tailor-made encounters to actually balance and challenge your characters. You start looking at them as stat blocks smacking each other. If I had a problem of my players using this spell a lot, then again, we don't have a cleric, so I don't have to worry about this, but I know a guy who would play the cleric who would do this. Let's say I'm having a problem with him doing this. You do realize that magical items and equipment can be done, or a mundane thing is you throw some gaseous, noxious stuff at the cleric that's close by. You see them, you pitch what's the equivalent of a grenade, force them to do a constitution check to finish their spell. This is not anything more than forcing the players to react and interact. These are actually little things, or my personal favorite would be having a swashbuckler having silence daggers, who, if they see a character, they have the ability to whip one of their daggers out at them, pinning it into their armor, and having a cone or zone of silence around them embedded in their armor so they cannot cast spells with verbal components. Now, people are saying, oh, you're a metagaming, you're being an asshole. No. I'm not saying you do this to begin with, but you do this as you're playing along, as the world builds. So, we know this group of people are doing these actions. We gotta find a way to counter them. Again, it's natural, it's progressive, and it makes you think on every problem that arises. These spells don't break the game. It doesn't break the game. It is just people who do not look at the game as a puzzle to solve. These are DMs who look at it as a very linear, here's the number stats, here's the number crunching, who has no real true imagination to deal with the problem. That's the bigger issue here.
I think the issue really does come into different DMing styles. There are definitely specific people who go into DMing for the power trip and stuff like that, and then when they find that DMing, like, you're not going to be a functional DM if you keep thinking like that. If you keep thinking about, like, you're there to get all of the people to do what you want them to do, you're going to be sorely disappointed, because it's ultimately going to be about player actions and wrangling them a lot of the time.
Well, again, like, that's the thing, is that when you start, when you're arguing about certain spells, It's more or less your opinion, not that it has any basis on things. It's just your opinion that you don't like this. You want it lethal, and you want your narratives told over how things work. Well, again, Rachel already knows many of my encounters are quite deadly, and it comes down to how do you handle them.
Well, and that's the thing. They become deadly because you tailor make it to the people at your table. And I think that is what's happening
We're not looking at tailor-made stuff. We're looking
well,
at
yeah,
mass production.
as D&D gets more popularized, you're more likely to have just a bunch of people who don't know each other and meet each other randomly. So it's more difficult to tailor make things right out of the gate because these are complete strangers. You've never met these people, and you're just rolling up into like a chat room or something like that and playing over Roll20. That's becoming more and more common.
Again,
Because
why I
people
don't
want to
like
find a group.
Well, it's why I don't like Adventures League, because these problems that people are going to make claims that are cropping up only crop up when you do not actually build a game for people. You build a mass product. And that's why a lot of these games are not really, like, why a lot of people immediately make their own worlds and customize it is because they start realizing very quickly it's not fun when you don't have something that is specifically tailor-made to yourself. That's why this spell, it doesn't ruin D&D, it's just the meta for when you actually don't have to roleplay. Again, he made one excuse of talking about I barely see anyone getting revived and died, and have it affect their character. That's what happens when you're in an Adventures League, because it's pure mechanics. When you go at conventions, you're not actually playing and role-playing, you're chucking dice. There's a distinction that you gotta make. Because here's something else I would do, that if I'm having a problem with my players, quote-unquote, using this spell too much, you start making incentives when you customize your world to make them use other spells. Let's say you have problems of you're dealing with the undead more and more and more. Protection from good and evil becomes a very important spell then. Oh my god, you're in a desert. Create water starts becoming a little bit on the priority of a spell list. Oh, you have a large party? Yeah, a lot of your spells are probably going to be selected to those things to keep you going. This is why. This is why that spell cannot be pulled from.
It's not difficult to wrangle your bard because bards have a pretty big selection of things to pick, and if those things are going to be more useful to them, just aiding the party, if it's going to be more useful for them to pick any of those other two spells to start out with, they're going to pick that over Healing Word. I mean, that's just what it comes down to. There's a lot of useful things that you can do as a bard early on that don't involve heal spells.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not looking at spells, abilities, or actions as this ability to solve solutions. This is a very linear thinking. You're not thinking laterally, you're thinking literally and linear. Because
I mean, this is just part of what has been going on as tabletop has been growing as a community. I mean, it's just become that people are tailor making things less, and they're trying to put out content, and I mean, it just starts to become, I think, that people are gonna do more clickbaity stuff like this, which is like, oh my god, Healing Word is destroying D&D. It's just ridiculous.
Well, yeah, when you literally think about what's said, what is being said is this spell that essentially heals 4 points of damage, that if someone gets knocked down, there's a moment of whack-a-mole between player and the DM of, oh, you're down, you're up, you're down, you're up, you're down, you're up. Oh, wait, I'm out of spells. Fuck. It doesn't... It's the thing is, it just comes down to... This is the reason why I say role-playing is essentially playing pretend with rules. And the reason why I hate this kind of trying to claim to change, it turns it into that everyone knows this kid on the playground that went, I shoot lasers at you. No, I put up my laser shield. My lasers are special and can go through those shields. No, they can't. Yes, they can. No, they can't. Mom! Yeah. Rachel's laughing. Everyone knows that kid. And this is where, like, don't pull this kind of childish stuff to me.
Well, it also seems like his main issue with fifth edition is that it's not 3.5, and that's the funny thing is like then play 3.5 if you like the rules that are surrounding healing and heal spells in 3.5, then play 3.5 or modify fifth edition. It's that simple. I mean, we are talking about how we personally feel about all of this stuff, but the thing to remember is that if you want to do something different at your table, you're perfectly fine doing that, but we just think that it's completely ridiculous to try and nuke healing word because out of laziness.
Mm-hmm.
Because it might keep your players alive a little bit longer. But that's the thing is like if you kill the players, all of them, if you have a total party kill like at first level, like why are you DMing? Like why are you trying? Is it just for the prestige of being able to say I killed everybody at first level? But that's like shooting fish in a barrel, is it not?
Well, that's the thing. It's like that. Well, that's the thing is that D&D, and that's the thing is like wanting to have a lethal game is it's fine and all, but this is not understanding. He says, "Oh, I played 5th edition for since it's come out." And it's like, so have I. And I've learned a lot of little problems have cropped up, and I kind of got these feelings from the moment I first played them, because there's good things and bad things about this system and every system. And to be honest, 5th edition is not lethal. However, how you get around this, because if you want a game like this lethal, this is essentially this is the crux of what he likes. He likes lethal games. What I do to have that sense of lethality, I literally have almost every encounter at the deadly category. And by that simple creation alone, it creates very much that same tension as 3.5. And I fudge a little more around in certain areas, but essentially you have that sense of dread of, am I going to make it? Because, as Rachel can attest to, there's been enough times that they're on 6 hit points, and they're sweating bullets.
That was me.
Yeah, that was you.
That was me. And if I hadn't thought of something good last session, I probably could have died. If I had just going all like Leroy Jenkins on it, I probably would have died. But I used my head and figured out something to do. So that's what happened.
Well, again, Rachel said, used her head. That's essentially what needs to be done on both sides of the table. If you have a problem with a spell that you think is quote-unquote ruining your game, use your brain on how to handle it. How would this spell work? How would someone in this world counter this spell? That is actually the optimum question that should almost always be asked in any edition and any system. This spell is bothering me and is causing havoc in the world. How would people in this world counter this spell? Because the moment you think like that, many of these magical spells that cause damage and ruin your game, they start evaporating in their actual reality. You start looking at them like, oh, okay, I'm having problems with people using tons of wish spells. Well, wish spells start not becoming as potent, or polymorph, or polymorphing several things. Like things start to, when people start thinking about how to really counter them in world, they're no longer the challenge.
What baffles me about all of this stuff, and maybe that's just me, I mean, of all of the spells to try and pick, that are overpowered in this game, the thing you pick is the heal spell. That's the one that's out of line. Not wish, not polymorph, not any of the other weird shit that you can probably find that's just ridiculous and over the top. No. It's it's healing word. I'm sorry. I just find that funny. That's just me.
Yeah, well, I think we kind of hit our point. It's like it's
Yeah,
not the
spell.
Where all it is boils down. It's not the spell. It's think on how to work with it in the world, because the moment you do that,
people take this stuff way too fucking seriously. They really do. And it's supposed to be about fun, and the moment you forget about the fun is the moment that you've lost the game.
Yeah, because again, this is why. Also, here's the other thing. It's like when you do these games, there's nothing wrong with streaming them and sharing them. That's a fun and enjoyable thing. Do it on Twitch. Yes, I encourage you, but also realize when you're doing stuff like this, and you start mass putting it out, you're no longer making something that's an art form.
Yeah,
You're making
I
something
think,
that's going to lose something in the long term.
and I think people really want to try and be Critical Role now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not entirely sure why. I guess it's because like I'm entirely convinced that a lot of this is scripted and they are not just going randomly. No, that is just me just looking at the production and all of that. That's not typically how D&D works, and so I think a lot of this is absolutely linear and scripted, and it's not like they're not just like randomly making choices. I think a lot of this is scripted, and so they all want to be the next Critical Role. It was like, why? Like, there's something really great and refreshing about actual D&D, where you have no idea what's going to happen when you sit down, and the people watching you have no idea what's going to happen when you sit down.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody's just so worried about being entertaining. And nuking any sense of unpredictability, because let's be honest, like a lot of unpredictable stuff will happen in a regular tabletop game, regardless like whether or not it's D&D, and not all of those things are going to be considered to be acceptable by the populace. But that's why you play D&D and not a video game. You play that because anything can happen, or anything within the realm of what you've agreed to can happen.
Exactly.
And that could be some crazy stuff.
Like you could have a Dragonborn fuck a kobold.
Or like the time that when I was playing, oh god, what was it? Oh god, I'm trying to remember the name of the game right now. It's like, I don't know why it's escaping me.
Is it the Sky Pirates?
No. This was when I was playing with Neff and the others on that Shadowrun. Yeah, I was playing Shadowrun, and the DM randomly put a huge double-ended dildo, and I said, I'm taking this, and I proceeded to use it as a melee weapon.
You see what I'm saying, guys, about not taking... On that note, we will let Rachel have her fun with her double-ended dildo. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us at the Drunken Tarrasque. We are now demonetized permanently.
We are not. We're not even monetized.
But no, thank you guys for listening. Tell us what you think.
Yeah, let us know in the comment section below. Like, subscribe, and have a nice night.
Night all.